Hello everybody and welcome to another Up the Dale podcast. We're back again and we are steaming through the Palace Shield fixtures at the moment, and as you remember if you watched our last podcast, we're now into the second stage of fixtures. So we'll have match reviews, match previews, news, and we'll have another Tales from the Dale. And as you can see, myself and Dave Maguire have been joined by a guest. This is Elliot Tailforth, my second team vice captain. And Elliot has many tales to tell, some of them with a twist. So, Elliot, good evening.
Evening, Neil. Evening, DM.
Evening, Al.
So we're going to get into, a Tales from the Dale with a little bit of an international twist later. All will become clear on that. But we'll kick off with some news. And we are going to firstly discuss something that we have discussed at length. And we make no shame in discussing it further. The All-Stars programme, we were really keen to get up and running after last year's success, and we have had it up and running now for 3 weeks, I think. We started off with 6 previous members who we felt if we could provide All-Stars cricket for 6 juniors, then we should do so. And we've gone in 3 weeks from 6 to 11 or 12, Dave, down on Friday.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's going really well. It's certainly growing by the week.
Exactly, and when we set out to do this, we said that if there was any other children that unfortunately their clubs weren't willing to be putting All-Stars on this season for whatever reason, that we would be willing to accept them down and give them that opportunity of All-Stars cricket. And we've had, I think, 2 or 3, Dave, that have expressed an interest. One from another club, a couple of new starters, and you were down on Friday. Talk us through the activities and how's it going generally?
Yeah, it's been going really well so far. As you say, we felt that given the availability of the coaches at the club and that we were able to put something on the time remaining before autumn's upon us, we thought it was something we could definitely give a go, given we had enough interest to probably run some decent sessions. And we've been able to follow the All-Stars curriculum, if you will. So every week they have specific batting and bowling and fielding drills just to keep them active and learning these new skills. So, for example, last week we had a quick warm-up game, just essentially just running round and trying to put as many balls and cones and bean bags into their own square and take them from the other team, just to get, just a general warm-up. Then we went on and we did some batting drills. So one of them would hit 4 balls into the outfield and would try and run, and the other team put the balls back onto the cones. So, a little bit of exercise for them in terms of fielding and throwing, and obviously learning how to hit a ball with a bat. Because, don't forget, some of these kids are 6 years old, some a year or 2 less than that, some a year or 2 more, just coming to the game. Then we did some catching and bowling to each other in between, a certain distance, and then widen that out a little bit as they got more and more confident, gave them smaller balls to use. And then we finished with everyone's favourite, a game of quick cricket, which, always goes down well. And as everybody says about All-Stars, it's essentially organised chaos, and they've all been having a really good time. It's gone down well with the kids and the parents, and come back and we've had really good feedback and reviews from the parents who've been watching on the sidelines, and it's just going really well. And hopefully the weather stays kind for the rest of the weeks that we run it, and these kids are able to keep improving further with the cricket skills.
Elliot, I just want to touch on something with yourself in terms of you were part of Longridge Cricket Club, and obviously a very successful cricket club at junior level. I just want to touch on something that I've been really happy with from our All-Stars sessions in terms of, Dave mentioned it there, that coach support. We've had, 3-4 volunteers down every week so far. And from your experience, not just with Longridge and cricket in general, that involvement from people at that level is absolutely vital to make things like this a success, isn't it?
Well, it is. You need the enthusiasm of existing club members to be able to attract those youngsters to the game. Longridge was very successful, as you've just mentioned, is very successful in that regard, because you have a big team of enthusiastic club members who are prepared to give the time to help these kids understand and learn the basics of the game. And it's great to hear that Dale are doing that as well.
Yeah, as I say, it's something that over the time we've done All Stars, I've been exceptionally proud of the people who put their hands up and as I said, whether it be juniors helping out or seniors, really getting involved, and it's really bringing success. And again, as Dave mentioned, some of the parents making very positive comments to us, even those who would have been at other clubs, speaking very highly of what we're trying to do at Wantleydale with the All Stars. So again, real massive positive for us, and as we make, as I say, we're not ashamed to discuss it at length, and it was something we really wanted to get going, and so far, touch wood, it's proving a very useful exercise. So well done to everybody involved, and yeah, we've got a few more weeks of All Stars left yet. So if you have a child between 5 and 8 and they want to get involved in the Wantleydale area or the South Ribble area, by all means give us a shout, and we'll see if we can get them involved. Okay, we're now going to move on. I'm going to pass it over to Dave because this is something that I'm sort of involved with. At the time of filming, there's something going to be announced as of tomorrow. So, Dave, do you want to explain a little bit more detail? We have discussed it previously, but you're in the better place to discuss it.
Yes, so as Neil said, at the time of recording on a very wet Tuesday evening, instead of practicing hard, as of course we always do, we've decided we'd use the time to do a podcast recording instead. So as of this current time, the winners of the Cricketer Magazine's Lockdown Heroes Awards are to be announced tomorrow. Tomorrow morning at around 11 o'clock, I think. So that's the 26th of August. Mr. Neil Harvey of this very podcast has been shortlisted for one of the award winners. And yeah, we wait to see whether he's successful. As we've said on previous episodes, he's up against some pretty stiff competition. Some very good nominations have been shortlisted along with Neil. So yeah, keep an eye out on our social media and things like that for it to be announced late tomorrow morning. And fingers crossed that Neil's an award winner. I'll be interested to hear the acceptance speech, Neil.
Yeah, I'm not good at speeches. No, me and speeches don't go well together. I mean, generally speaking, the kids count how many times I say when I'm making a speech. It's generally in double figures. So anyway, I mean, as we said at the time, I'm just very grateful to be nominated for something that really I was doing just to keep myself busy. So, and as Dave says, plenty of very, very worthy nominees in that Club Heroes section. Some we know and some we don't, but we know everybody's story in terms of everybody being involved in their own cricket club in their own small way. So, as Dave says, they're all worthy nominees for one reason or another. So, good luck to everybody in that. And yeah, we'll find out tomorrow. Moving on to the last thing in news, and it's just a little bit of an update on our intra-club fantasy league, kindly sponsored by Brigham Barrel Micropub in Bamber Bridge, who will be providing a prize for the winner. And as we've discussed previously, this is causing, I want to say, a little bit of a stir, but a little bit of excitement within the club, and it does create a different slant on things in terms of people keeping an eye on everybody's performance, no matter what team you're in, because everybody has players from different teams across the club. And as of after this weekend's matches, my son Dominic Harvey tops the table somehow, considering he's not made a transfer at any point during the season, and he seems to have landed lucky with his team selection. But a certain Elliot Tailforth shot up the league this week. Any idea why, Elliot? I mean, were you actually? Did you have any inside track or what? I mean, you went up from what, 14th to 5th?
I changed my captain from me to Imran, I think it was.
Okay.
I anticipated not getting a ball on Saturday, Neil.
Oh, right, fair enough. That would have been an inside track of sorts if I'd have said anything, but. And
of course, I swapped Pete Ingham out of the side for Anis.
Well, there you go. Very wise. Yeah. Okay. Well, as I say, when we get to the review of the matches, all will probably become clear as to why you shot up the table from that point of view. Then, so yeah. Well, as I say, it's going really well. as I said, we can't thank Brig and Barrel enough for supporting it for us. It does add something, a little bit of something to the club. The twice we've done it seriously now, it's really caused a stir, and everybody discusses it. So it's something a little bit different. It has a fun element as well, to everybody across all three teams having a discussion. So yeah, the Fantasy League's going really well. So long may it continue. And as I say, we've got a few weeks left yet. So we'll see who finishes top of the table. So that's your news. We now move on to review of last week's matches, or last weekend's matches. Unfortunately, we only have two, because the third team on Sunday were rained off at Chorley. Never got a ball bowled. In fact, it was called off in the morning. Chorley, unfortunately, after overnight rain, didn't envisage the pitch getting any drier, and it did rain for a good proportion of Sunday morning as well. So, unfortunately, the third team got called off at Chorley. However, there was two games. One played more than the other, but we'll start off as we always do with the first, and it was the first game of the second stage of the Pala Shield, whereby we'd been drawn against, or both teams have been drawn against more geographically spread teams. So the first team had Eccleston seconds at home, and battered first, and unfortunately only crept to 72 all out, with a bit of a top order collapse, and I think top scorer was Tom Bates with 14 or something like that. And we were at Darwin, and we got the message through that it wasn't going so well, and realistically, gents, I'll start with you, Dave. It has been the top order that have been batting well, and certainly people like Naz grinding out an innings and providing a stable base. But when the top orders, let's say top five or so, don't fire like that, it's never going to be easy. I believe the deck wasn't the best because it was still a very damp wicket, but 72 all out is never going to be a great basis to take the game on, is it?
No, I think it's similar to when we spoke a few weeks ago about when the second team lost at Longridge, and there are just some days where it just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen for you. It was one of those classic Pala Shield days where there was a lot of rain around, and it was very murky and wet day. A lot of weather coming in and going quite quickly, and I can imagine the majority, although our game is an exception, the majority of teams winning the toss would love to bowl first last Saturday. It just puts you at an advantage with the weather conditions and the pitch being an unknown. So I think they had it tough batting first anyway on, as you say, a deck which wasn't perhaps as batter friendly as we'd have liked, and if the weather had been a bit kinder during the previous week. But yeah, it just didn't fire. The batting just didn't fire. We've seen in previous weeks there's been at least one person who's been able to put a score together, and perhaps everybody else bats around to grind to a total. Just didn't happen for one reason or another. But the great thing about this format is that they have a second chance, which we'll come on to. So all isn't lost, but hopefully they can do similar to what the second team did, just dust themselves down and improve and respond in the coming week. Yeah,
the Eccleston seconds went on to win on Duckworth Lewis. When the game was finally rained off, Eccleston were 56 for 3, I believe. And at that point, the Duckworth Lewis par score was 42, so they were well ahead of the rate. I believe, Elliot, I want to touch on something you've captained a lot. Just want to touch on something here from that point of view. I believe, from my information down at the ground, that there was almost a readiness from Eccleston to be aware that Duckworth Lewis might play a role in this, and that their captain was very aware of where they needed to be. And it's certainly not something I've ever had an experience of, but on a wet day like that, I suppose now, and there was a lot of games decided by Duckworth Lewis at the weekend, has become evident since, when the league are making points on making sure everybody's aware of it. From a captain's point of view, Elliot, it's just something else that gets thrown into the mix, I guess, in terms of a day like that.
Yeah, we were discussing when we heard that they'd gone off the rain, weren't we? We never even factored Duckworth Lewis into
No.
the equation. I think we forgot all about that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the first time the Palace Shield have used Duckworth Lewis this season. I know that Duckworth Lewis was used previously in the county and national knockouts, and I know that Longridge came unstuck more than once with Duckworth Lewis because of the technicalities to it. It's not always the easiest to work out. I'm always in favour of bowling first because I think that puts you in control of the game more. And certainly, if weather is going to come into play, you have that greater control when you're batting second. Particularly on a track like the one at Dale this year, it is the proverbial sticky wicket, quite literally. And as Dave said, you win the toss, you bowl, don't you?
Yeah.
But factoring in Duckworth Lewis, factoring in the potential, just looking out of the window now, the actual inclement weather that we're getting, I would rather have that greater control over it. So, for goodness sake, Neil, win a toss and put them in.
I've got to say, it sounds to me, as I say, Beth was down there scoring, and we heard from Beth when we got down there that, I think certainly their captain was always on top of things, and Beth was actually using the scoring app on a laptop on Saturday, and therefore had the Duckworth Lewis par score always there in front of her. So I get a feeling that certainly Eccleston were well ahead of the game in terms of knowing where they needed to be at any given time, and like you say, batting second like that, you're always in control of that. You know where you need to be, so you can inform your batters accordingly. So. I think.
But to be honest, if you're only putting 70 odd on, you're always going to struggle. I mean, they were they 3 down?
They were 3 down.
The writing was possibly on the wall. It would have taken an absolute miracle. It would have taken 7 wickets, wouldn't it? To get any other result out of it. So I don't think we can be too critical, if that's the word, of how the result panned out. And fair play to Eccleston, they played the game.
Absolutely,
one of those things.
I believe. I think there was a couple of contentious decisions that maybe let's face it. I mean, we're talking after the horse is bolted now, but I think if a couple of other wickets and a couple more wickets, and maybe Eccleston would have maybe been behind the rate. Who knows? But like you say, fair play to them. They'd done enough, certainly with the ball, to put us on the back foot, and that's all they needed to do at that stage. So unfortunately, the first loss. But as Dave mentioned, such is the format, they can go straight back into it and go again this weekend. So good luck to the first this weekend. We'll discuss that in the preview coming up shortly. So with the first losing, it fell onto the second team to get the second stage off to a win, which they duly did, or we duly did, should I say. We were up at Darwin versus Darwin Thirds, and the day started off dubiously with a text message from their captain, Craig, telling us that their place was looking a bit damp, which, to be fair, given the overnight rain, we sort of expected. So we headed up there. In the end, we got a message saying, come up, we expect we can start on time, which was good. And we headed up there, and I've got to say, what we found was an absolute delight, in all honesty. A pitch that was pretty dry, almost bone dry, I would say. An outfield that, whilst squelchy in a couple of places, looked like an absolute carpet. And we'll come on to that in a moment. But I've got to say, a very pleasant experience all round. And that's not just because of the win as well. So we unfortunately lost the toss. Cue dodgy faces from them too, because they know what a bad tosser I am. However, their captain decided to have a bat first. And given the dryness of the pitch, and whether he thought it was going to deteriorate or not, I don't know. But we would have had a bowl first anyway, as is our want in terms of bowling at the moment. Whilst bowling is our strength, and chasing seems to be what we're doing best in the seconds at the moment. So we would have bowled first regardless. So it was a win-win for me. Well, a lose-win. But so we bowled first, and the first over, Imran didn't quite get his radar right, and there a couple of young openers, one big lad and one small lad, and the small lad put a couple of full tosses away, and I don't know about you two, and I don't know who wants to take it first, but I've got to say, considering the weather we'd had, and you can open this up about the conditions in general, but the outfield just ran like an absolute dream. And as I say, before we go into the match in a little bit more detail, Dave, I don't know if you want to start, but the actual ground was in absolute top nick.
Yeah, it really was. It was sensational condition given the amount of rain which would have fallen in the previous 12 to 24 hours. It was certainly a pleasure to field on it compared to sometimes when we're fielding in ankle, if not knee-high grass, to be on something which actually you felt like you were on. This is a proper ground.
Yeah.
You know, it's been properly looked after. Yeah, it was a real delight, a real pleasure to actually be on Darwin's main ground. Having been to the 13 ground at Sandy Lane one or two times in the past, it was quite a nice step up to the showground.
I think, Elliot, I don't know if you want to touch on the actual pitch itself. I don't think when the covers were rolled back and when we got there, we were expecting to see something quite as dry as it was. I mean, Craig had said that some water had gone under one end, and I think the only thing we could ascertain was it was ever so slightly greener at one end than the other. It was a cracking deck as well, really, for our level.
No, it was a decent deck. I mean, it's a long-established club. I mean, that square's been down there for years, and you know the work that's been done on it for decades will obviously make for a quality wicket. There was a patch at the Blackburn end wicket, just on the fullish length, that I was telling some of our lads to try and hit. It was probably about the size of a 50p piece, something like that. And I was watching, no one hit it. It would have been interesting to see what would have happened if they had.
Yeah.
The only other issue I think was slightly damp running on the at the Darwin end of the wicket. But apart from that, and it was like a snooker table, which puts the fear of God into an old so-and-so like me, thinking about possibly having to chase a ball on that wicket, particularly down that slope as well.
Yeah.
But no, it was lovely to play on a quality ground. And yeah, I played at Sandy Lane before, and chalk and cheese isn't the phrase, is it?
Well, I think the other good thing that we need to touch on as well is, given, as Dave said, given the weather that the firsts encountered, we only came off the rain once, and even that was 5 minutes, something like that. We sheltered under a tree for 5 minutes, and the wind was gratefully blowing all the weather across, and anything that did came in quickly blew across before it had a chance to dump any rain on us. So we certainly got away with the weather, probably compared to most other places from what we saw, both on social media in terms of the state of some grounds and the scores, and the Duckworth Lewis, for example, at so many other matches. So bowling first, we bowled Darwin all out for 80. I'm not saying it was a struggle. No, it was 80. Let's not start and get confused again. Actually, for a change, my daughter Emily, who was scoring, was spot on. She came down at half time, and it was 82, I think, originally on the board. And Emily came down and to discuss with us and said, "I'm sure it's 80." My book adds up both batting and bowling to 80, and good on her. She went back up, and after some discussion with the opposition, they did round it down to 80 because that was the correct score. So we were chasing 81 to win. I've got to say, the start of the innings, as I was saying about the young lad who hit a couple of fours, we didn't bowl badly, but we didn't seem to be penetrating too much in creating chances and stuff like that. That's my overriding memory of the start. But we stuck at it and kept it tight, and we eventually got the wicket of the opener caught behind by Andy off Ikram, and then again, there was another little partnership then after that of I think numbers 2 and 3. And again, we've talked about this before, Dave, in terms of, I think it was the Whittle match, not panicking, sticking to our guns, sticking to our principles in terms of line and length and creating pressure. And we did that. And I think the biggest thing from me was, obviously we have Imran and Ikram as our strike bowlers, and they've done really well. But it was actually probably the first change bowlers of Sam and Saheed Vahalawala were the two that sort of probably the batters relaxed probably a little bit too much in terms of when the openers had gone off. And the two first change bowlers, Sam and Sid, really did take control of the game at that point, didn't they?
Yeah, it was very, very tight bowling, and it is a cliche in cricket that dot balls build pressure, and I think that's what it was. Obviously, Darwin will have been conscious of the overs ticking by and the need to try and put a defendable total on the board, and having batted out the opening bowlers from both ends, they probably felt under a little bit of pressure to kick on and start scoring the runs. And with both first change bowlers at each end bowling tight lines and not really giving away many free balls to go for boundaries and whatnot. There just wasn't that ability to be able to get the score ticking over. So I think it was that slow build of pressure like we've talked about previously, where dot balls build pressure and that inevitably will lead to wickets.
The other aspect of this that we have to touch on, and we talked about it with Elliot, and in terms of his fantasy league, bringing Anis in. Anis is a decent bowler. He has took wickets for us before, and he's only just come back to playing this year after originally saying he wasn't going to play. And we've been twisting his arm just to try and bowl a few for us, and we needed a couple of overs from one end just to get us back to the opening bowlers again. And we talked Anis into coming on, and it was yeah, I'll try. And then 3 overs later, he's got 3 for 2. After not particularly trying too hard, if I'm being quite honest. It was just a usual Anis, wander up to the crease and that low slingy arm of his, and yeah, he got 3 for 2, and it was yeah, I mean, as you said, the pressure was created, and Elliot, I don't know if you want to take this on. It was, after that pressure from Sam and Sid, I think, as we discussed on the day, the emphasis was very much on the batters then to try and get on with it, as Dave said, with the overs running out. And I think Anis took advantage of that a little bit.
Well, I always watch the scoreboard. I always like to know where I am, and I'm always doing the mental arithmetic in my head, working run rates out and what have you. And I think after the first 2 overs, they were 10.
Yeah.
For the next 10 overs, they were scoring at 1 and over. Yeah. So the run rate goes from 5 down to about 2 in very quick time. And that is always going to put pressure on the batting side, particularly when you've got weather potentially affecting the game. But then, like you say, apart from those first 2 overs, really it was Imran's first over that was the costly over.
Yeah.
After that, everyone bowled very, very tight. And we were talking, every time a wicket went down, I think we got to about 15 overs, we're saying they must kick off soon.
Yeah.
And they never did. To be fair, they had a lot of young lads, all very careful. You could see that they had been coached properly, technically very correct batting, but never seemed to be able to press the accelerator pedal. That said, we did get their senior players very early doors, didn't we?
Yeah.
In fact, we were both out. The 2 oldest players were both out for dust.
Yes.
One of them starts a little bit controversially. Not in my book, but in his. And so the pressure was always on. And that always helps then when you go into the field. I don't like chasing low awful.
No.
I think my experience is that every time I've been involved in, it's been awful at chasing low awful, as we talked Longridge a few weeks ago. And so chasing 80, 81 to win, whilst it seems like manna from heaven, on a track that wasn't too difficult to play on, but with inclement weather conditions, never an easy thing to do. No,
it isn't, and yeah, we've discussed it in the past in terms of getting away to a good start. But I think overall, we were happy with. Obviously, we were happy with 80, but I think we were happy that of the way we went about dismissing them and as you say, restricting them and not even allowing them really to ever put that accelerator down. And yeah, it's.
The other factor as well this year, and we've mentioned it before, Neil, in various games, is that in actual fact it's not about wickets this year.
Yes.
It's about scoring more runs on the other side.
Yeah.
Wickets don't particularly come into it. And so you find yourself, I noticed on Saturday we had that little bit of a dichotomy where their lads were bogged down. They weren't scoring runs. Do you want the wickets?
Yeah.
Or do you want to keep them like that?
Yeah.
And it didn't matter, it was academic because we bowled them out anyway.
Yeah.
But you are going to get situations like that where you're going to have to think to yourself, what is the best thing? If we get this lad out who's not scored a run in the last 5 overs, are we going to get someone in who's going to chance it all and get lucky? I don't know. It's something else to factor into the captaincy equation.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing I just want to quickly mention is young Matt Berry came in the night before, and Matt bowled again, showed why his development in the third team has been taking. People have been taking notice of that. Bowled with a good deal of pace, in all honesty, and that's the one thing I'm really getting impressed with Matt now. He's getting a lot of rhythm and a lot of pace. Was rewarded with a wicket, caught at point. Off a not a no ball, off a full toss, should I say? And I've got to say, it was one of the worst balls he bowled, and he got a wicket with it. And as I mentioned in the match report on the website, hopefully that's Matt realising that it's not always the good balls that get the wickets. Something obviously I used to live by, and I think all three of us can concur with that one. That it's not always the good balls.
Correct. I still live by that now.
Absolutely.
I've been accused of burgling wickets this year.
Well, yes, indeed, Dave. And as I say, it's something that I think every club cricketer can fully appreciate. Is that so? Young Matt, as I say, is now very much on that road to bowling a good ball and not getting the results you deserve, and then bowling a full toss that gets smacked straight at point. And the captain has to walk, unfortunately, for a duck, as Elliot said. So yeah, well bowled to Matt as well. So yeah, we were chasing 81 to win. And again, as we've discussed in great detail, you want to get off to a good start. And unfortunately, this week we didn't get off to a good start because Ikram was out early doors to an absolute blinding catch in the slips. Guy didn't have to move an awful lot, but boy was it flying off a thick edge, and he took a superb catch. And I think all of us just said, fair play. It's just one of them things. Great catch. And Ikram was exactly the same when he walked off. But yeah, Anis opened up with him, ended up 39, but had a couple of partners on the way. Unfortunately for young Dom Harvey, who went in 3, he got the only real ball that misbehaved all day, and a grubber that got about 2 inches off the floor and trapped him in front. I then went in and somehow managed to grab 13. I am absolutely, and I experienced and Dave can share this one as we discussed it about the Longridge match. I had my first free hit, which is an absolute delight, and I don't think you've had one yet, Elliot, have you?
I've never been in long enough.
Well, I wasn't gonna go down that road, but as I say, it's my first experience of it, and what an experience it is! The freedom and the vitality it gives you in knowing that you can't be out and you can just play whatever stupid shot you want to. Luckily, I got a full toss outside off stump, which I managed to. Jim said was a delightful looking drive. To me, it felt like something all cramped up and muscled through cover. It didn't feel like a great looking drive. I don't know if Jim was looking at the wrong player when he's must have been Anis's.
It was probably because it was through the posh side for you, so it must have been.
Yeah, true. It wasn't lakeside, so yeah, he may have been thinking along those lines. But yeah, I think the one thing that I do want to pick out is when I departed for a slog sweep to Cow Corner, where the guy didn't have to move after Anis telling me please don't sweep, which is quite ironic. The good thing was that again, we did have to show a little bit of battling. Sam Bolton came in at that point. Anis got out the ball after me, which Andy Shorrock came in and had to face the hat-trick ball and unfortunately avoided. But then Sam and Andy, Elliot, you can take this one on. I was really impressed with how they batted really sensibly in terms of, and I know we always say this, and I say this a lot, defended the good ball, punished the bad ball. And they knew that's all they really needed to do because there was occasionally bad balls. But the pair of them did it reasonably well, in all honesty.
Yeah, again, scoreboard watching, looking at where we were trying to work out the run rates. We were actually quite behind the rates at one point, yeah. And then I think it must have been when Sam went in particular, like you say, picking the bad ball, we got back to where we were. And there were sufficient bad balls to be put away to allow you to have that one scoring shot and over, which was all we needed, actually. But yeah, having that bit of steel with Sam there at number 5, Andy at number 6, is that right? Yeah. I'm just trying to remember the order. I mean, Shelton's turned into a batsman all of a sudden. Where's that come from? I mean, we were joking, we were in the slips, weren't we, talking about non-batting wicket keepers,
Yeah.
and I don't think Shaw had heard of Godfrey Evans. I'm sure I'm doing him a disservice. But no, I mean, Shaw's has come in and shown that he is quite capable with a piece of wood in his hand.
Yeah. I mean, he's always been badgering me about the fact that he'd like to become a little bit more attacking. He's felt that that's been stifled batting lower down the order in previous seasons. So, but it is good to see. And as I say, him and Sam really did put on a good stand there and really, as I said, batted sensibly and saw us home. And a little bit of a rough situation with Sam, who pulled his shoulder out mid-innings and eventually recovered and felt he was all right. It has since been found out that he did dislocate his shoulder and it went back in. So there was us lot calling him a drama queen and telling him to get on with it, and he did actually dislocate his shoulder. But thankfully he took it on, and yeah, we knocked it off, I think, with about 3 overs to go or something like that. And
it was comfortable.
Yeah, it was like, as you say, at one point it did look like it was going to go right down to the wire, but we just crept with a few boundaries towards the end and got it over the line relatively comfortably. And again, as I said, we now move on to wire this week, and we've got off to a great start. So we've done ourselves, the biggest of favours there, getting off to a cracking start.
And the other thing to remember as well, I mentioned earlier about this season not being about wickets, but about scoring more runs. It is about wickets in respect of the net runs per wicket rate. We did ourselves a wonderful favour on Saturday. I think our net run per wicket rate is now over 12, and I think wire are somewhere around 3.
Yeah.
And we're playing them next week. So, I mean, that's something else that you factor into when you're thinking game strategy. But just going back to the first as well, that's some consolation they can take out of Saturday's game, because they won't have done themselves too much harm on the net wicket rate.
Yeah, absolutely. And I say, in a small group with only a few matches, it can be vital. So, we'll bear that in mind as we move along in the matches coming up. Once again, thank you to Darwin for their hospitality. Really good set of lads, and was a pleasant experience all round. So thanks to them for that.
And some good beers.
And some good beers as well. Some cracking beers in the bar afterwards. So and all socially distanced as well. So and again, good setup. Talking about good setup there in terms of access and how they've got the bar set up as well. So well done, Darwin. As I said, we can't review a 13 game. Unfortunately, it was rained off. So we will now move on to match previews, of which there are 3. We won't go into them too much detail. Suffice to say that the first will be wanting to bounce back immediately with a match against Longridge Thirds, which we know in past experiences has been difficult ties for the first team when they played them previously over the last couple of years. Some have gone our way, some have gone Longridge's way. Elliot, I'm going to pass this one over to you, with Longridge being your old club. Suffice to say, we'll keep it simple and say it will be a tough game for the first.
Yeah, I think Longridge Thirds went through the initial phase undefeated. Strong side. Longridge have put 4 teams out this year. They usually have 5 teams. I think it's going to benefit to them with a bigger pool of players to pick from. Surprisingly, the Longridge first team didn't do very well in their group. Didn't go through. A 1-run win to Fulham Broughton in the last game did the Longridge first team. The second teams won theirs. The Thirds won theirs. Look, they're a strong side.
Yeah.
They're probably the biggest club now in the Falkland Shield, to be quite honest. And they have tremendous strength in depth, and it'll be a good game to win. Put it that way.
Okay, well, as I say, we'll wait and see. First team will be wanting to bounce back. I'm sure there'll be some egos bruised a little bit in the first team after a good start to the first stage. First game of the second stage not going the way they wanted. So fingers crossed. As I said, there'll be some people in the first who will want to bounce back quite quickly, and will want to up their performance from last week. Second team, as we've touched on, we travelled to Cottam Hall playing fields, the home of Wire Cricket Club. Elliot seems to think it's a lucky ground for him. He's always done well there. I've got to say we only have one experience of going there, Dave, on a warm day a couple of seasons ago. And then the only other time we played them at Rossall School, which was a very pleasant experience. So we need to push that to one side, and we'll be back at Cotton Hall playing fields. And realistically, we reckon this might be the key clash. If we can win this one, then with all likelihood we're going to top the group and go through to a semi-final spot. So Dave, big match all round for the seconds, and pretty much an all-in performance needed.
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, a win, and that may well all but seal qualification to the semi-finals, or at least get 1 foot in the semi-finals with a second victory. We haven't played Wire that much in recent years. I think we played them last year, was it? Yeah. As you say, we played them up at Rossall School. I think we managed to win both home and away matches last year. Whether Wire have strengthened since then, a bit of an unknown quantity in these times for all teams being able to put sides out. So they got off to a winning start themselves last weekend. So I think it'll be a very tough match for the seconds. And I think we're going to have to put in a very similar performance to that of last Saturday, a very battling and tough performance. To be able to stand a chance of coming away with another victory. I think it'll be a real tough examination of the second team this year.
Yeah, you're quite right. I think Wire themselves were struggling a little bit for players last year, and probably weren't the Wire that we'd played the year before, actually, when we were at Cotton Hall. I know they've had a couple of guys come back who had left them to go to another club, so that I know they have strengthened. And as you say, they got through their group quite easily, I think. So yeah, 100% it'll be a tough match, and fingers crossed we can get over the line and into, as you say, one foot then into the semi-finals. So yeah, big game for the seconds. We'll quickly move on to the thirds. Weather permitting, they will be back in action, and this is against Vernon's Fourths, who Vernon's seem to have found a bit more stability player-wise this season, and I know they were struggling with the fourth team getting a team out last year, but I think lockdown's been kind to them in terms of getting a bit more availability. And again, Vernon's always been a strong club, and will always turn out quality players throughout the teams. No matter what level it's at. So again, we've always discussed, Dave, in terms of the development that the third team is offering in terms of opportunities for players. And again, this offers another opportunity. Elliot, you've played in the third team on a couple of occasions this season, and this again will just go to those guys, both the seniors and the juniors who are playing in that third team. Again, will allow that continuation of opportunity and development that they've been doing so well this year.
Yeah, I think I played 3 times for the thirds this year, and captains in Pete's absence against Rufford. And you've already mentioned Matt Berry. The opportunity for the likes of Matt, of Owen, and some of the other younger players, Evan, just off the top of my head, to play senior cricket is invaluable. As you've alluded, I was previously at Longridge, I captained the 5th team, and that was very much set up like our third team is, to give those young lads the chance. And my view is you can play as much junior cricket as you like, and arguably at times the standard of junior cricket is higher than the standard you're playing at Longridge 5th team or our third team level, but it's senior cricket, and that's a massive difference. And the only way you're going to learn cricket is to play senior cricket. Ultimately. So I think this season will do wonders for the younger members of the team. It also gives opportunities for the fringe players as well to perform and to put themselves in the shop window for promotion into the second team. First team, who knows? So, yeah, I mean, it would have been interesting to see how things would have panned out had the season been a normal season. And 3 teams playing on a Saturday. That would have been interesting. It would have perhaps signposted the future of the club. I mean, if you were able to put out 3 teams consistently on a Saturday, you're doing something right.
Yeah, it's something we've discussed in previous podcasts, Dave, isn't it? In terms of what we were aiming to achieve with that third team, and it is such a shame that they had to revert to Sundays, because ultimately that's taken away a little bit of the gloss of what that third team was going to try and achieve, in terms of, like you say, Elliot, that movement between the teams and the fluidity and the potential for development that way. And the ability for more people to play cricket on Saturdays at the end of the day. So yeah, it is. I couldn't agree more from that point of view. But in terms of how that third team's operated this year, I think, from our point of view, it is giving opportunity to more people who can't play on a Saturday, or who aren't playing on a Saturday, whether they be the juniors that, as you say, getting that introduction to senior cricket, and extending their development of senior cricket, or those guys who are seniors, who have paid their subs, wanting a game of cricket, and are grabbing the chance to play on a Sunday at the moment. And I know whether it's be umpiring or watching, I've seen a lot of the third team this year, and I completely support what's going on, and how those guys are playing the game. The enthusiasm is still very much there, and hopefully that'll carry on for the rest of the few games they've got left this season. And as I say, it'll be a good run out against Vernon's Fort. I think it'll be quite an evenly matched game, in all honesty, and we'll wait and see how that goes. And good luck to the thirds on Sunday against Vernon's. So that's the previews of this week's matches done and dusted, and good luck to all three teams. Hopefully we'll have some good news next week of some victories. We're now going to go into Tales from the Dale, which is Tales from the Not So Much Dale, and also with an international twist, which, as I said previously, all will become clear. So I will hand it over to your host for this section, Mr. David Maguire, our very own Jeremy Paxman. Take it away, Dave, and ask Elliot a few questions.
Thank you very much, Neil. As Neil was intimating at, we'll caveat this with the fact that Elliot has played a handful of games for the Dales, so perhaps asking him his favourite Wantedale match at this current stage, it might not be a particularly much of a hole to choose from. So
it should have been the game at Longridge where we capitulated.
Favourite game, yeah, you're right.
Beating the old club's always good.
More to cricket in general. So, as we always start this section, if you can just go back to right back in the day, how you got into cricket, your previous teams, and your cricketing CV.
Well, I'll be honest with you, I was a late starter to cricket. You might be surprised to hear. You won't be surprised to hear. I wasn't a junior cricketer. I've never been coached, as you can tell. And I sort of played the odd game as a kid. But I was always into athletics. I was a pretty decent 400 metre, 800 metre runner. And so I spent my summers running around running tracks, while all the other lads from Hurst Green, where I'm from, were taking the bags up to Longridge and developing as cricketers up at Longridge. It wasn't until I went to university and I was in halls with a lad that played for Sussex. I think he played one first team game for Sussex, but was a regular in Sussex twos. He was a left arm, leggy, decent batsman, good sportsman, rugby player, football. The golfer, the sort of person you hate because they're good at everything they can do, whereas I am quite frankly average at absolutely everything. And he became involved in the team that you'll know, Neil, Hallam in Sheffield.
All right, yeah.
I used to go with Darren, mainly to prop the bar up, and then I ended up putting some whites on, and I ended up playing. I ended up generally playing in their first team as number 11, not bowling, but I was quick. I was in the field. I had a decent pair of hands, and I was almost in as a specialist fielder. And again, I'm going back 30 years, so my current agility or lack of in the field isn't really a reflection of what I was like 30 years ago. So that was really my introduction to cricket. Came on from university. Like I say, I'm from Hurst Green, Ribchester, that area. Ribchester decided to start a cricket team. I was involved with starting Ribchester cricket team up, and we had a few successful seasons until Unfortunately, natural wastage meant that we were no longer viable. We were a small club, smaller than Dale. Didn't have that infrastructure. We had the big noisy neighbours up the road at Longridge who had a monopoly on the kids players, and fair play to them. Going in the other direction, you had teams like Salisbury and teams in around the Clitheroe River Valley area. So, you know, it was always going to be difficult for us, particularly as we had no grounds to speak of. I mean, in my time, I think we must have played on 5 different grounds. And sadly, that was Ribchester's demise. But when that happened, I was asked to go up to Longridge. A few years at Longridge, captained, as I've said previously, the 5th team for the last couple of years. Just missed out on promotion last year. I decided it was a change, and I'd actually played for Dale last year under the Palace Shield loan scheme. So when I decided it was time for a change of venue, Dale was an obvious choice. And thank you for welcoming me.
Very good. Very good to have you on board. So you've covered your first match there, which is actually the second question, so we'll tick that off. So apart from, you said, you know, being another in a side, do you have any other earliest cricketing memories at all? Did you watch it on TV as a kid or anything like that?
Do you know, I remember coming home from school in 1980, and my dad was at home for some reason. I don't know why my dad would have been at home at that time, but he had the Henley test on, and we sat down, and it must have been after Botham's heroics, because I clearly remember Bob Willis's 8 wickets at Headingley, and I think that is possibly my first real memory of cricket. I've always loved cricket. I love sport full stop. It was just a sport that I was late to get into, regrettably, I suppose. I'd have been a world beater. I'd have been coached as a kid.
Slip through the net.
Wouldn't we all? Yeah, we can all pin that one on.
So if you were there watching maybe Headingley 81, was anyone in that side your first cricketing hero at all?
I mean, the obvious ones, both of them. For some reason, and I can't tell you why this is, I clearly had earlier cricketing memories that I can't quite latch onto at the moment. I was a big Tony Greig fan.
Interesting.
And I don't know why, but I was a big fan of Tony Greig, and I was also very much a fan of Mike Brealey's captaincy method. I mean, he was in for his. I mean, I was only a nipper at the time, but from memory, I would suggest that Brealey was only ever in the England side because of his ability as a captain. I don't think he would have got into the Test side on his batting alone. But obviously he's a trained psychologist. He knew the game, he knew how to motivate players, and I always found that quite interesting. That psychology plays so much of a role in cricket.
It does. Yeah, his book's very interesting as well, isn't it? The art of captaincy, quite an interesting read even today.
Neither of you will be surprised to know that I haven't read Mike Brealey's Art of Captaincy. I haven't even read The Art of Tossing a Coin, obviously a calling right, so I can't even talk about that one.
Someone told me that your library burnt down recently, Neil, and you were very upset because you'd not finished colouring all the books in.
Anyway, Dave, next question.
Yes. So first cricketing hero. Moving on to current cricketing hero. Who's your favourite player of the current times?
Well, bearing in mind today's event, it's got to be Jimmy A, hasn't it? Good old-fashioned Lancastrian. The only problem is it's that issue, and Scott Newton will understand this. As a Blackburn fan, how can you support a lad from Burnley, but it's Jimmy A, he's from Lancashire?
That's fair enough.
We have to quantify that again at the time of filming. Jimmy Anderson got his 600th Test wicket earlier this afternoon, and congratulations to Jimmy for that. And long may he continue. He shows no sign of slowing up. And Anil Kumble is now in his sights at, I think, 619 is the next one to tick off.
That's right.
So yeah, well done, Jimmy, on that one.
Yeah.
So if we just move on to sort of the games that you've played in now, perhaps not necessarily just Walton Dale games, but you can pick one if you want. Your favourite match that you have played in?
Don't know what you're referring to here, DM. Actually, I don't know what you're trying to lead me into here.
Are we going to go? Are we going to go international now?
Are we going there?
I think it might be time, Elliot, that you now
Should we
reveal to the watching public what your claim to fames are, and if you can go into detail as to how it came about, because I don't think even we have been actually given the full story as to how you came about.
I don't like to talk about it. My favourite game that I was involved in was in Mexico City, believe it or not, playing in an ICC tournament. It was a tri-nation tournament. There was Mexico City, Costa Rica, and the team I was captain in the Falkland Islands. And I'll talk you through the game first. It was. They had played international cricket before. They played the odd game before the Falklands, but this was the first big tournament. And so we packed bags on a very long flight from the Falklands via Chile, Panama to Mexico City. Arrived, the kit didn't, which was the first problem we had. So I was captain. The first day was spent rushing around trying to sort out alternative kit. As a side note, the kit arrived on the day we were due to leave, but there we go. This was, as I say, it was an ICC authorised competition. At the time, the Falkland Islands remain an affiliate of the ICC, and the rules of the ICC was to retain your affiliation, you had to play a match or a tournament once every couple of years, I think it was. They've changed that since, thank God, because it was costing them a fortune. So the first one we ended up at was in Mexico City, and it was this beautiful country club in Mexico City, and you go outside and it's the slums of Mexico City, but this was gorgeous, and this was I can't remember, it's 2009 I think it was, so 11 years ago, and we had a load of village cricketers. That was basically, I mean, when I'm meant to be one of the better players, it does really say it all, doesn't it? And we played against Mexico. They were predominantly expat South Asians, Indians, Pakistanis, Indians.
Yeah.
Lovely lads, great lads, good players. Costa Rica were again predominantly expat Brits, a few Costa Rican lads. And we played each other twice. We played a 50 over competition and then a 20-20, if I remember rightly. And this was in the 50 over competition. It was against Costa Rica. We'd already been beaten by Mexico, so it was against Costa Rica. And we didn't do particularly well with the bat. We weren't 140, I think it was, that we'd scored. And they were going on along great runs. And I was bowling sort of seam up at the time. I might have to go back to that because my spin bowling's gone way with it this season. And I took a couple of wickets early on. And they needed about 20 to win, 6 wickets down. And I decided I was going to bring myself back on. And the one thing I remember is this idea going through my head, I'm going to finish it this over. I mean, nonsense, 4 wickets in an over. First ball goes down, drops slightly short of the length, left-hand batsman, snicks on, straight into the gloves of the keeper. 1 down, fantastic. Next man comes in. Again, slightly short. By this stage, I have nothing to lose. I was captain, by the way. I brought the field in. Everyone's round the bat, and about the point fairly close in, 3 in the slip, etc., etc. Bobbed another one in. Again, slightly short of the length, no great pace to it. He came forward, it just edged off his bat straight to point. 2 wickets down, 2 balls. Next one comes in, same ball, exactly the same thing. Off his bat, loops it straight into the hands at point again. A hat-trick. I mean, I don't take many hat-tricks. A hat-trick.
And an international hat-trick at that.
International hat-trick. Lad comes in, number 11 batsman, didn't look like he'd held bat in his life. Puts one down, same ball again. And somehow he managed to block it out. Next ball comes down, again, just short of the length. 3rd catch to point. 4 wickets in 5 balls. And it was this. I was on the front page of the ICC website that week, where in the match report someone described it as the most. I can't quite remember the words, but it was something along the lines of the best spell of medium-paced bowling they've ever seen. So, yeah. And consequently, I am mentioned for that performance in the 2010 edition of Wisdom. I'll bring it down next time I'm down there. So that was my greatest moment in cricket to date. But to cut a long story short, the reason I was in the Falklands, I actually went to work for a couple of years on secondment. And I was interviewed by the Attorney General of the Falkland Islands. And I'd done a bit of research before because I knew I wasn't going to get in on my legal knowledge, if that's what he was after, and realised that he was a big cricket fan. And so the interview just consisted of me BSing him about how good I was at cricket. And that got me the job because, right, you can have this job, but you'll have to play cricket as well. And I was made secretary of the Falkland Islands Cricket Association and captain of the Falkland Islands cricket team. And that, as we say, is history. The following year, 2010, I'd actually finished my secondment a few weeks before, so I'd come home and then I'd fly out to Costa Rica to play in a World Cup qualifying competition. And that was on a coconut mat in the middle of a polo field in Costa Rica, and it was red hot. We were playing Belize, and they were big lads. They were like Caribbean cricketers.
Yeah.
Well, they could hit a ball and they could throw it down quick. We had Chile, Peru, Costa Rica, Mexico, and there's that. There may have been one other team there that slips the memory. But it was a really good experience, great time. And there are certain things that I will tell you another time, probably not suitable for this podcast. Oh my word! But yeah, so I went out there. Playing cricket in the Falklands was very interesting. I actually took a group of kids to Chile as well. The Falklands under-18s to Chile for a week or so. That was great until I got the flu and ended up in bed all week. But yeah, that is my cricketing claim to fame.
Wow.
That's probably the best answer we've had.
I'm going to say there's not been many can trump that. That's for certain.
But no. you can imagine how my former colleagues at Longridge will take the proverbial.
Oh, absolutely, and I fully expect us to do the same over the period of the next coming years. But the very thought that we could have seen Elliot Tailforth at the ICC World Cup, if performances had gone your way, further down the line, that really would have been a highlight. But
I'm going to drag the wisdom. I'll drag the wisdom book out. I'll find it. Yeah.
From Wisdom to Walton, where did it go wrong for Elliot? Penultimate question, although I think you've probably just answered it as well. Best performance you've seen on the cricket field?
There's been what? You mean apart from my own?
If you like.
There's many. There's just one that comes to mind. Talking about the Falklands, I can't quite remember. It was after my performance against Costa Rica. Now I've got to tell you a bit of a story here, and I've got to be very careful how I word this. But we had a lad playing for us. He smoked about 40 fags a day. He had the nightmare when he couldn't smoke on the plane, and he had the unfortunate surname of Clapp, Kevin Clapp. Now, Kevin, very good golfer, actually. He's about 5'4", decent batsman, could throw a mean ball down. Kevin loved going to, and still loves going to Chile. He particularly likes associating with the lady and the boys there, if you know what I mean. And we were playing, it could have been Mexico, actually. And the aforementioned Attorney General had said to Clappy, if he managed to get a fiver, he'd pay for his night out, and I'll let your imagination work out what that meant. And sure enough, Kevin got his fiver. And this was the game as we were due to fly out at 4 o'clock the following morning. Kevin went out with his pockets full with the Attorney General's money and turned back at the hotel about 5 minutes before the coach was due to pick us up to take us back to the airport. It wasn't the greatest performance I've ever seen, but in terms of someone so buoyed up by such an incentive, it was a fantastic performance.
I don't know how to reply to that. I mean, the only other thing I can say is that I don't know, maybe that could go down well at Wantleydale. Maybe that would incentivise some people. I'm not sure.
Well, you know, there's names coming to mind now. I just thought Kevin was very appropriately named, though, bearing in mind his other favourite pastime.
I think that's very well put, Elliot, and yeah, it was succinctly put. That, yeah. Dave,
that's broadcast. I think I've left that broadcast.
I think it's broadcastable. Yeah, just about. Yeah. So, Dave, move on to that last question quickly before things get worse.
Final question: favourite cricketing memory?
Oh, it's got to be the Costa Rica game. It was brilliant. Yeah, I mean, 4 wickets in 5 balls, 6 of 14. Yeah. Face spread all over the ICC website for a week. Fantastic.
Doesn't get better than that.
Well, I've been down and out on it. I've been down and out on it now for 11 years. So long may it continue.
And why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Telford. That's been absolutely enlightening. And as I say, for those that didn't know, the Falkland Islands did. And do they still have a cricket team, Elliot?
Yes, they do. They do. They don't have to play the same game. I mean, just as a matter of interest, the way it worked, the ICC pay for everything. You paid, I think it was something like £8,000 entry fee to join one of the competitions. But then the ICC pay for the flights, for the accommodation, everything, apart from your drinks and anything else you might want to do on a night out. I refer to my previous story. And bearing in mind, you know, you were taking 15, 16 people from the Falklands to Mexico City. I think one of us would have cost the £8,000 in flights.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's... yeah, there we go.
Excellent. Well, as I say, I think we're probably entertained and educated tonight from a cricketing point of view. So yeah, excellent stuff. So I think that just about wraps everything up. As I say, more matches to come this weekend, weather permitting. So hopefully we'll have some positive results for you to report next week. And for the time being,
make sure you bring your calculator on Saturday, Neil.
Oh, I'll certainly bring my calculator, and as I say, we'll absolutely make sure that we're working those runs per wickets out, because that could be vital. So as I say, hopefully we'll have some good news for everybody, and it'll be a good result, and we'll hopefully have at least one of the teams into some semi-finals. So we'll wait and see. So wrapping it up, that's all it is from us for tonight. So Dave, thank you very much for joining us again.
Yeah, thanks very much, Neil. Thanks for the stories, Elliot. It's been good to have you along.
And thank you for the invite.
Thanks, Elliot, for joining us. It's been another Tales from the Dale to remember. And as I say, we are not only entertainment, we are educational. So and we are now international. So at least Elliot's provided that for us. So yes, so thanks everybody again for watching. This is another Up the Dale podcast done and dusted, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.